Oh, Krystal. How you wanting to get worked on? Oh man, look at it. Beautiful. Oh, hey, what's up guys? Man, what a nice day today. Sun shining, but it's not 150 degrees. There's a slight little breeze blowing through and it feels pretty good. Anyway, I'm standing here next to this beautiful piece of machinery. Man, just look at it. She's so gorgeous. Krystal, 1983 Kenworth K100. Big bunk. V12 Detroit swap. Man, this is going to be a nice truck. I love this truck just the way it is, but there's some things we're going to have to do to this old girl. First things first though, let's get this power plant rigged in there and start getting the thing ready to be running and driving again, because you know, Krystal's tired of being broke down. So let's get this cab up, let's get in there, get the water pump off, jockey the engine around a little bit, raise up the front. Let's find out what we can do as far as putting the mount in, and let's just get after it. We're going to go up pretty high. We're going to put the 4x4 under it, because we want this thing to be safe, and we don't have a cab lock. So put this thing in there good. All right, well, it's got it pretty good. All right, well, I don't see any trouble spots as far as wasps or whatnot. So you really can't see what I can see, but what I'm looking at is the water pump right here. It needs to come off. It's just a few bolts. There's a hose here and a hose here, and a few bolts on the front, and that thing will come off. And then once that happens, then I'll get up underneath, we'll clean out the area below, and we'll get the mount on the motor, and we'll jack this thing up and down and move it back and forth a little bit and get her centered in there. Definitely has to go up a little ways. That fitting is definitely sitting on the frame rail. This fitting is definitely going to be hitting the frame rail if we go up too far. So I think we'll go up maybe 1 inch. We'll turn that fitting down, we'll go up 1 inch, and then we'll see where we're at. I'm pretty sure the water pump solution I have is going to be just fine. And then we'll make that front mount, and we'll get this thing down on the mount. There was some reason why I wanted to move the engine over this way a little bit, but we'll figure that out in a minute. Let me bring you over here. So this here is the water pump, and the reason why we're taking it off is because the lower hose kicks out this direction, and so it's hitting the frame. So we're going to take that off, take this hose off, we'll take this hose off, take the bolts out of the front of this, and we'll drop this water pump off, and then we'll move the engine where it needs to be. We'll build them out, then we'll bring the other water pump in that has a straight down, and we'll get after it. So we'll be back. So moved you in place. I think we'll see about getting these hoses off. Yeah, that sucks. Be right back. I'm like, why won't that bottom come off? Remember I told you this washer, or this nut, wouldn't come off any further. Still had a few threads on it. Now to come off. Dumbass. Now, what's going to happen is that thing's going to be overpowering. So I'm going to have to get up there where I can get a hold of it. And this is why we're putting a new water pump on before we put a fan on it. Yeah. Alright, now let's get a look in there. It's going to be super hard to get that fitting off. Just letting you know that right now. We got about 3/4 of an inch. Didn't know that was a thing before, but it definitely is. Oil cooler is touching the suspension, which is why the engine's pushed over that way anyways. And I think I got to take this bottom fitting off. I don't think I can. I'm gonna have to cut that bottom fitting and then get it out, and then the engine's got to go up. The engine's got to go up quite a bit, 2 inches. Wow, that is really gonna be close. I'm not even sure. Oh, look at that, there's another fitting right there. Oh, there's a fitting on each one of these oil coolers. Oh, not cool. Not cool. Well, it might be a hard stop while we rethink some things. Maybe this engine needs to come up a couple inches altogether. Alright guys, so here's the thing. So, you see, alright, you see down in there, you see this is the frame right here, okay, and you see these fittings right here. There's one below the frame and one above the frame. Those are oil fittings that send the oil to the oil filter. Now, there's also, see, there's 2 engines here, right? So there's 2 sets. Let me see. There's 2 coolers. There's this cooler. That has the fitting. And then that doubles and goes back into the rear cooler, and it has fittings. And also, you can see right here, the oil cooler is touching the suspension. So that can't happen. The biggest problem is this engine needs to move over this way to clear the dual, it has twin dual thermostats, because one thermostat cools the front engine and the other thermostat through this tube cools the rear engine, or something of that nature. Anyways, these are pretty wide, and this engine needs to come over this way 1 inch to make it so the cab clears the other side, and then that fixes this problem. But the biggest problem is now these coolers down there, this one and that one, are going to be up against the frame. So my only option, I think, is to order another set of coolers, take these fittings off of the block, These are the water lines that go from the cooler into the block. So I believe the water gets cooled, comes through the oil cooler, and then goes into the engine block through these, and then comes out of the engine block through these and back up into the radiator, and then starts the cooling process again. So I think, because these are the source of all of my troubles, I think I have to take these off, take these oil coolers off, and fabricate an oil cooler relocation. It's so hard to see, but if you can see, you see in there, that oil cooler is bolted to the block, and it gets the oil from the block in one hole and then goes through the oil cooler through that right there, through that oil cooler, and goes in between all those water jackets and goes back into the motor. So there's going to be an exit and an entrance in both engines from that oil cooler. And what I'll have to do is I'll have to make a plate, and that plate will have to have fittings on it, and the fittings will have to go onto there'll be another plate that matches the oil cooler, and it'll have to go fitting, cooler, fitting, filter, fitting, cooler, or back to the block. It's really going to be a pain in the ass. That's the single, you see it down there, that's the single hurdle that I need to accomplish. And I thought that when I eliminated the oil filter housings that used to be this front cover right here, this cover right here that the fittings are on, that used to be a big oil filter housing that I knew wouldn't fit in between the frame rails. But I thought with these oil filter relocation covers, that would be the answer, but it's really not. Those oil coolers are just too big to fit. Now I'm going to take you over to a 6V92 that's in the Belvedere and show you the difference. Is even though the oil cooler is larger, because this is I got to be careful of wasps going out there, but anyways, the cooler is just an in and out, and then the oil filter is an in and out as well. It goes out of the motor into the filter, out of the filter into the cooler, out of the cooler into the motor. But the problem with the 12V, let me flip you around here. The problem with the 12V is, since it's one cooling system that's cooling both of the 6-cylinder engines, it goes in one cooler and over into the other cooler, and so that's why the coolers have to be bigger and the water pipe has to be bigger to supply more water to do adequate cooling. So I don't really know what is going to happen, but I can tell you right now that I won't be able to do any of that custom stuff with the motor in the truck. Let's see if you can see from back here. This is at the rear of the engine, below the exhaust manifold, and you look in there, and this is the oil cooler right here, and this is that plate that took place of the oil filter, and there's the fitting. And then the thing I didn't notice when I put it in, why it wouldn't move over, is because you can see that oil cooler housing is resting on that spring perch, and I could fix that by raising the engine up, but I can't raise the engine up because the fittings got to come out, and I can't take the fittings out because they're elbows, they're 90s, and I can't turn them. I could cut them off and then turn out the stub and move the engine over, but then I won't be able to get the covers off of the oil coolers, which I don't even know if that's I don't even know if that's really a thing. You can kind of see what's going on in there, and those oil coolers are the big issue. And the only thing I think I can do is take the engine out and put it back on the ground, and take the oil coolers off, and take them to the machine shop and have plates made with fittings, maybe dash 16 fittings, and have those dash 16s run back to an oil cooler in the back. But I don't even know how I would eliminate the water part of the oil cooler. I don't think I can. I think I'd have to have the water pump through some plumbing to a place in the back. Let me see if I can get your imagination up in there with me. Maybe I could have some water lines run back, and put a set of oil coolers back there. Have the water go in and out of the oil cooler, and then also plumb some 16 lines up to the front. This is a lot of work, man. This is not what I planned. I intended on having these oil filter plates. Man, I don't know. Thought I was going to get to the bottom of some stuff today, and all I did was uncover some new problems. I just don't know what to do about those two fittings. I could maybe have new plates made and have the fittings come out the back of the plate. Instead of out the side, and then I could go up with the motor an inch. But I don't think that's the answer. I don't think that's the answer. I saw pictures of a guy with an engine setting in a Cabover. Obviously it wasn't a completed project, and he had the exhaust all figured out, but I don't know what he did for oil cooling, and I'm going to try and reach out and see what I can see. Maybe I get some information from him, but I don't see any way around that. This in particular is a big deal. Let me see. Let me grab a sheet. I'm gonna grab a sheet. I'll be back. All right, so we're underneath here. Let's see if we can get a look. Oh, I got my greasy hand on the lens. Hold on. All right. Let me see if I can go a little wider view here. Zoom out. Okay, so this is the underneath. There's the oil pan. There's the line in from the water pump. This is oil cooler number 1. You see there's a plate on the engine, then the cooler where the water goes, and then the link over in the oil cooler number 2, and you see there's where it bolts the block, and then the cooler unit goes to that. And so what'll probably happen is I'll have a new plate made here with fittings, and that'll eliminate this big block right here. And then I'll do the same thing up here, and then I'll move these oil coolers back into that area right there, and it'll be below the frame, and the water will come down here, and it'll go in one cooler, in the other cooler, and there'll be bracketry and stuff, and then it'll go out some fittings and then back there. I think, I don't know, because I've never had them apart. But here's the trouble area. Is that plate right there is the plate I put on, and I figured that these fittings would be, would be fine. But the problem is they're right in line with the frame. There's one up there that's above the frame, and there's one down here, and they're like even with the outside of the frame. So the engine can't come this way at all, because that one up in there will hit the frame. So both of these fittings will have to come out. And it's not just there, it's also this menagerie right here. You see where the oil cooler is resting on the upper bushing area of the I keep getting grease on the lens, I'm sorry. I'm not able to get it off because my shirt that I'm wiping it off with is wet. But you see that oil cooler's resting on there, and that can't happen. So I don't see any way to get those off. But I'm going to try. I'm going to try and get them off in the truck and get these oil coolers right out of here. And then try and square the engine up in the chassis and get the front mount made, and then see what I can do about what I can do with these oil coolers. I don't think there's anything I can do. I'm looking up between the engine block. You see this area right here, there's some sort of connection, probably oil going in and out. And then also back here there's a connection, and that could also be oil going in and out, like where the oil filter, the original oil filter adapter would be. Another thing I could do is where this goes into the water pump, I could put two of the 6V92 oil coolers on, and two of the 6V92 oil filter housing adapters on, which are a lot different configuration. And then I could make hosing. I could reduce this from a big fitting to two small ones and have one go in to the first block and then one reroute and go into the second block. But either way, I'm going to have to take these oil coolers off, so I'm going to get all these bolts off. I don't know that I'll have room. That's going to suck. I don't know if I'll have room to get these bolts out. They only have to come out just of the back cover, right? And then I can pop them off and drop them out of there. I think all the oil's out of the engine anyways. And once I get the oil coolers off, then I might can get some things built based off the back of these oil cooler things. And another thing that I could do is I could make plates that drop these oil coolers. I don't know. I don't really know. But right now, I feel like the engine's going to have to come out, and I'm not going to be able to finish this project. So if I take these oil coolers off and I don't get anywhere with them, and then the engine has to come out, I'm not any further behind than I am right now. So I'm going to try and get them off, get these front covers off. Hopefully I can get them off. I don't know, they're real close to the frame, but hopefully I can get all the bolts out. I think I can get all the bolts out, pry this front cover off that I permatexed on, and if I have to, I'll get aggressive. But let's see, we'll get those off. And I don't know what holds that whole menagerie there on. Oh, it's just a bracket on the motor. So I'll take those two off, take this hosing off, take these oil coolers off, get them out of there, get the engine where it needs to be, and then see what room I have to work with, and see if there's a way I can plumb these oil coolers, maybe get some more of this size tubing, and then run just tubing through here, you know, up over close to the motor and back to these oil coolers mounted somewhere back on the chassis, and then have an adapter plate that runs the oil from the engine to the cooler. You know what I'm saying? Like, just make adapters. But that's going to be my final straw, guys. If I don't get and I know I've been turning this camera all over the place, but if I can't get this to work, this engine's not going to work in here anyways. And all the work I did on making the bell housing work, and all the work I'm going to do on getting these oil coolers out, is going to be for nothing. And then this engine's going to come out, and this thing's going to get a cat. And you know, a lot of you guys have already tried to convince me that that was the right move anyways, and like I said earlier, I'm going to do what I can to make this work, and if it won't work, then I'll put a cat in here. So anyways, I doubt you'll be able to see me do this, but I'll try and take some pictures or something. See ya. Alright, so about an hour later, I got the oil cooler unhooked from the engine, but I can't get it out because of that fitting. And the only way to get it out is to slide it forward. I got to take the oil dipstick out. I can slide that forward and then drop it out. So it's been a full hour. It's been a good time. And you know, it's frustrating. But I can't even take the engine out myself. I have to call a crane. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make it work before I pay $400 to get the motor pulled out. So get back to you. All right. Now, I don't know how we'll ever get that back one out. These things are super heavy. Probably gonna pinch my fingers a little bit. Ow! Just cut my wrist. Could have been a lot worse. It's sharp, but it's not long, so it only just barely got me. Okay. So, got me there. No big deal. Could have been bad. Luckily it is sharp, but not very long. And then this is what the oil cooler looks like. It's just oil in and out, water in and out. Water flows around these, oil goes in and out. So hopefully we can figure out a way. Hopefully we can figure out a way to make a 3-bolt cap with a 16 AN. We'll put those on the motor, and that'll be the oil in and out. And the I don't know where the water goes back in. I think this is oil and that's oil. And so I'm not really sure. Oh, the water goes back in through that top thing. So we'll take water. Okay, so the water neck, that's how. Water goes in the bottom and then around all this and out through the top. So we'll have to take a hose off of the top, come down into a Y, and we'll run that water back. We'll have these go back, and we'll get the plate off the engine that goes on here, and we'll make a bracket back there, and we'll hang those oil. And you know what, we'll put the oil filter housing right back on these, and we'll just relocate this whole thing. We'll make a nice set of brackets on the frame and have that oil cooler remote mounted. Cut my wrist right across my tendons. It's okay. Glue it back together later. And that gives us oodles of room in there. So we're going to try and get this second one out. This is going to be a lot harder than the first one because if you remember, that's sitting on the suspension. So we're going to have to go up with the front of the motor, try and get those bottom bolts out, get the rest of the bolts out, try and knock that thing off. Hopefully we can scoot that back and get it off that hose. All right. So I don't know how I'm gonna get this one out because of that fitting. I don't want it to drop out and just fall on my foot, because that does not sound like any fun at all. Ah. Oh, this truck being obstinate today. It's hurting me and making it difficult. When all else fails, beat it out of there. Okay. Ah! Well, what are the chances of grabbing your mechanical oil pressure gauge and ripping it right off of there? Nice. It's gonna storm. I got crap laying everywhere. Well, let's give it a look. Ha ha ha. What do you think, guys? I think they're about to call it due to weather. But old Krystal was obstinate. But I got her. I got those oil coolers out. So I'll pick up my tools in case it rains. But I'm gonna leave them right handy in case it don't. And I'm gonna get those oil coolers into the shop. Get these fasteners bagged up, labeled, and maybe see about getting those base plates off that hold the oil coolers on, and get a look at how we're going to fab that up. All right, so I moved the front of the motor over, and just to see if I can get that to clear both sides. I think I can. I can still come my way a bit. All right, let's see what you got. I don't know what that was. Oh yeah, I do. It was a shifter probably. So we're going to move the motor just slightly more to the passenger side. Well, I'm going to get up in there just in case it comes down. Just got to duck. Okay. All right. Looks like it'll clear. Yeah, it's gonna clear. We'll be able to get a hose on that. If we can make the oil coolers work, I think we'll be in business. I'm gonna finish getting stuff put inside, but clears that hose. But Krystal fought me today about 4.5 to 5 hours to get the oil coolers off. I got the water pump off, then realized the oil coolers were sitting on the frame and there was no way around it. Those oil coolers cannot go in there, so now I'm gonna have to custom make. I'll take those brackets off of the side of the frame, or off the side of the motor, and I'll bolt the oil coolers all back together, and I'll get my machinist to make me a plate to bolt to the engine that has a 16 AN or bigger, might even go bigger, fitting. We'll get the 3-inch line going back through the oil coolers of water, and we'll get a 3-inch return that breaks up into 2 2-inch. We'll make those adapters to go in the block, and we'll probably use braided line. It's gonna be interesting, but I'm not ready to give up on this conversion yet. And let's say I get this all done right, my goal is to have this truck able to take a 12V92 and have the pieces made to do it. So if anybody else wants to put a 12V92 in something, they just buy a motor, buy my pieces, put it together, whatever. So we're gonna make it happen. I'm not giving up yet. I almost gave up today. I thought, man, I'm just gonna call the crane, pluck this thing out, stick it under the bench, power wash it, stick a cat in there, but I'm not doing it. Krystal deserves 12V92. Maybe not this 12V92, but when this is all said and done, if this engine doesn't get rebuilt or whatever, I'll buy another one. I'll throw the blowers on it and throw my conversion down it and slap it in there. But for now, guys, appreciate you coming. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and check out jamespretty.shop. Get you some Krystal merch. Help me out with this project. We'll see ya.